This is why I do video in the cottage. So, hi everyone, it's Dakota. Well, that was an interesting way to start this video. That was Cowboy, by the way. For whatever reason, he decided to join me in the kitchen, and I have no idea what he was barking at. I think he just wanted attention. Anyway, I have since moved from the kitchen into my dining room. However, what I'm talking about today is I'm going to show you how I make my oils, okay? And I'm sort of all over the place, so let me kind of gather my thoughts here. The oils that I make, I don't make the oil itself. In other words, I don't extract the oil from the plant and make the essential oil. I don't have the equipment to do that. I don't have the know-how to do that. And I certainly don't have the time to do that. I do know that it takes a very long time, it takes a lot of time, and it also takes a lot of oil that you extract from the plant to make any amount of essential oil. And that is why essential oils are so expensive. Now, when I talk about essential oils, I am talking about 100% essential oil, not your oils that have already been diluted with a carrier oil. Now, in my store, the oils that I sell, like I said, I sell them in these little, and this can be a plug for my store if you want it to be. That isn't what the intention was, but it is what it is. I do sell these. So these are little 2-gram bottles. And the oils that I sell, that I put together and make and bring into the store, come in these little tiny bottles here. And then I do sell other brands. I sell brands of oil. And most of those oils, they're called essential oils, but they have already been diluted with a carrier oil. So what is the difference? Well, an essential oil is just that. It's 100% essential oil. My oils, it is not recommended that you use them directly on your skin, like as a perfume or something like that, because they can be harmful. They can be an irritant. Because there's no dilution of it. It's 100%. So it can cause a burn, it can cause a rash, those types of things. So my oils are not intended to wear. If you want to wear it, you can get a carrier oil and dilute it. And then I would assume that it would be safe for you to wear if you're not allergic to that particular oil. The problem is with my oils is that they are a blend. So that is what I mean when I talk about my carrier oils, or my oils, not my carrier oils, my oils. I blend them, I mix them. So I order my oils from a specific company, and this has taken me years to find a company that I liked, the feel of the energy. I'm not big on oils, like actually using oils in my own work. Yes, I do use them. I use them to dress candles with. I might use a drop or two in an incense. And I use them occasionally to anoint things, especially like a petition or something that I'm getting ready to use. I might actually draw a sigil on the petition with the oil. So I do use them in that respect. But I don't know. For me, oils, just like perfumes, are really, really overpowering. From a distance, they smell good. I know that my house smells like oils all the time. Um, and you can use them in diffusers, but just from using the oils, I've had spills where they've gotten, maybe on a carpet, or a little rug, or they've spilled on it's just, the smell is everywhere, just like when you come into my store. So the difference with the other brands that I sell in my store that you can actually wear on your skin, those have already been diluted with a carrier oil, so they're fairly safe to use if you don't have any allergies. And it's always really highly recommended that you try like a real sensitive area on your body first, like just a small little thing, just to see if you have any allergies to it. Okay, so but yeah, so I am not going to today give you a recipe. I'm not going to tell you which oils I use, and I'm not going to tell you how much of this and how much of that I use. I blend the oils. I use about, I think there's 3 companies that I use. I'm looking over at my oils right now over there. I think there's 3 companies that I use. I have one main company that I use, and then I use a couple of different companies, and those are the oils that I use as a blend. So let's just say I have my main source, and I use however many drops or however many I use these. They're called pipettes. This is a dropper, but it's a long one because my bottles are large. And so to get all the way in there, I use the large ones. And so however many drops I might use of my main oil, and then I will use however many drops of the other company oil that I use to make the blend. So, and then I add some other things to the oil. So that's, I'm going to show you kind of what I do and what the process is. Now, on the carrier oils, one of the reasons why I used to, in the very beginning, when I started making oils for my store, or let me take that back, when I started making oils for myself, I would buy an oil, at some store, because I didn't have my store at the time I started making oils. And so I would buy an oil, whatever brand it was, but it was an essential oil that literally had been diluted, so you could wear it on your skin as a perfume if you wanted, or as an intentional oil. So if you wanted love, maybe you bought a rose oil, and you could use it on your skin. Well, I was using those oils um, to make oils for myself. So what would happen is I wanted that oil to go further. And so I was using a carrier oil, even though that oil I purchased already had a carrier oil in it. I was really young and new then, new, seeker, beginner. And so I didn't have the experience behind me. So I would buy the bottle of rose, let's just say rose essential oil at the store, at the metaphysical store, and bring it home. And then I would have a carrier oil. Now the carrier oils that I started with were like olive oil. I started with safflower oil. I've used sweet. Then I moved up from there, and I started using sweet almond oil, the unscented. But not until, and let me go back even further. I actually used to use jojoba oil as my carrier oil, but it is expensive. It's really expensive. So I moved away from that and went to the other oils that I had read about in books that you could use. Now, one of the things that I learned and found out from doing that was, number one, the oil I was using already had a carrier oil in it, so it was already diluted. And by the time you mix that oil in with a carrier oil of your choice, let's say you used an olive oil, there was hardly any smell to it because there was so much carrier oil that the essential oil, it was very, very hard for that scent to come out. So the other thing that I realized, though, using those carrier oils, like the olive oil, I've used grapeseed oil, I've used, like I said, the olive oil, the grapeseed, I've used safflower, I used coconut, which did not work at all, by the way. Coconut oil. I think I've even used corn oil before. And what I found out is like over, because I don't just use this whole bottle in like a couple of weeks. I mean, I just don't. And I never really have, excuse me. And I never really have. A 2 dram bottle like this lasts me anyway. It lasts me quite a while. Um, Even if I use it to anoint my candles or to put a couple drops in an incense or anoint something, you know, petition or whatever. I mean, you're only talking about, you know, like a finger's worth. Or if you're doing your candles, maybe a few drops of oil on the candle. You've seen my videos. I don't use that much oil. So it would last me quite a while. And what I noticed was after about a month or so, it started to smell like cooking oil. I mean, that's really what it started to smell like. Even when I switched over to, because I had finally, by this time, I had figured it out that the essential oils that I was buying were already diluted, and I was double diluting them by using a carrier oil. So I did start investing. I knew that I wanted to make oils, and so I started buying the 100% essential oils, which, like I said, is more expensive, but it was worth it. So, but I was still using those carrier oils, and truly, after about a month or two, like the oil just truly, it just started to smell like cooking oil. I mean, it's sort of almost, not that it was rancid, but it just. I know that, you know, if you have any kind of oil sitting in your cupboard and you smell it, you know, it smells like cooking oil. That's what it smells like. And it affects the you know, the breakdown or the I don't know, the intensity of the actual oil itself. So when I use an oil for spell work or, you know, for anything like that, I want the actual scent. I don't want it to smell like olive oil. I don't. I want the full 100% proof oil to use in my stuff. So, so since that time, I stopped using all of the carrier oils, even the sweet almond. You know, the sweet almond I got was unscented. It had been referred to me or recommended to me. And so I was like, oh, it's unscented. Okay, cool. And I bought that. And even with that, after a while, there's a scent to it. There's a scent to it, and that changes the scent of your oil. And I didn't like that. So that is something else to remember. Like coconut oil. I know a lot of people they love coconut. I love coconut oil. I use coconut oil on my skin straight from the jar. Virgin coconut oil. That's what I use. It's like lard. You know, I pull it out, rub it. It melts very, very quickly, and I use it on my skin. I love it. And it has just a really slight smell of coconut. So imagine that in with your oil. It just throws it. It doesn't smell right to me. Okay, so I use 100% essential oils. Yes, and so because of the amount of time and the amount of effort and the amount of experimenting that I have done with making oils, and I now sell my oils at my store, I don't actually share my recipe with anyone. So, you know, if someone, I have people ask me, well, I need to know what's in it because I might be allergic. Well, if you might be allergic, I would highly suggest that you not purchase it because, you know, because my oils, you're going to see, I use an herb that corresponds with that particular intention or affirmation or whatever it is that you'd like to call it, and a gemstone, which we're going to show you. But unless it, you know, if it has, today I'm going to be showing you a protection oil that I'm going to make, and I'm actually going to use Palo Santo. Sometimes I use sage. That's the other thing, is I change up my recipes. I change them up often. So it's always the same, but a little bit different, whether it's in the herb or maybe the stone. The oils usually are always the same because it's taken me so long to perfect it to my likes, if that makes sense. So, perfection is, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder or the nose of the beholder. So I haven't really changed my oils, but I have changed the herbs and the stones a lot of times that go in them. But, you know, if it had, so today I'm going to be using Palo Santo for my herb. I'm going to be using Palo Santo. And so, you know, if by some weird chance you were allergic to Palo Santo, well, it's got Palo Santo in it, so you probably aren't going to want to use it. I have an oil that has jasmine in it, or Stress Less, my Stress Less oil, which is good for anxiety and stress. It's a really great oil to use in meditation. You can use it in a diffuser. Has jasmine. If you're allergic to, has jasmine herb. So if you're allergic to jasmine, you may not want to use it. So I can tell you the herb that's in it, but as far as the ingredients and such that is in the oil, you know, I don't share that because it's just, it's my own private recipe. So I do apologize for that in advance, but you will come up with your own and what works for you. So that's going to be great and awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I do my setup and what it is I do. Now, I have already, as you know, I started this video with a dog barking, and I had already cleansed my space. And I had left, I don't use sage. I use, not in my house. I will either use Palo Santo, but usually I use an incense, frankincense, or a copal, or, you know, a Palo Santo, something like that. And so I'd already cleansed my space. Well, I set the incense down because I was going to go continue on with the video, and the incense burned out, and I just feel like the smoke has been all over, so I'm just not going to cleanse. But typically, when I sit down to do my work, I'm going to cleanse. I want to cleanse my area, and I have, which since I'm over here, it's a little more difficult, so just please bear with me. When I do my oils, I have to have my sink. I have to have the sink, which is why this video is being done here in the house as opposed to out in the cottage, because I don't have a sink out there. I'm working on, I'm trying to get my husband to get me a little sink with a, I'm going to use a rain barrel outside, and that will just be my water. You know, I don't need purified water or anything to wash my hands and stuff. But that way we don't have to like run water lines and stuff over to the cottage. So anyway, okay, so in my sink, in my kitchen sink, I have 3 small bowls, little like custard size bowls, you know, like not big, you know, soup bowl kind of things like this. Aren't these pretty? I got a set of 6 of them for $7, brand new in the box, hadn't even been open yet. Mikasa, beautiful. Yeah, and they're all different on the inside, different colors and stuff. I'm getting off topic, but I just love them. $7, brand new in the set at the at my favorite thrift. Okay, so I've got 3 little tiny bowls. I don't care what kind of bowls they are, but you know, just small bowls. You don't need a really big bowl. One bowl has soap and water in it. That's what it has. It has dish soap and water in it. And the other bowl has water, and it has, I use Florida water, you know, that much in there, a glop in there. That's what I use as a cleansing, to cleanse away whatever residual energy that I have worked with on the particular oil that I made. Okay, so then I cleanse, and then I have another bowl that just has plain old water in it, and that's what I use to rinse. What am I washing and what am I rinsing? I'm rinsing my little pipettes. Okay, so because these are what you use for your oil, right? So let's just say this was Florida water. Pretend this is an oil, and I take my pipette and I go down and I get the oil and I put it in my jars. Well, when I'm done with that particular intention, I don't have hundreds of these on hand. So I reuse them. And so for me to reuse them, the first thing I do is put it in my soap and water bowl, squish, squish, squish. I wash it all out. You know, I wash it all out. Then I put it in my cleansing bowl. You know, I squeeze it, get it all rinsed out, and then I put it in just a clear water bowl to rinse it all off, and then I just dry it. So now it's ready to go for the next oil. I feel comfortable doing that. Or else if you need to have, if you're not comfortable with that, you're going to need to have a dropper for every single one of your oils. Now my bottles are large bottles and they don't have screw-on tops with a long enough dropper. If they did, I would just use that, but they don't. In fact, they don't even come with a dropper because my jars, my bottles of oil are large. So so I have to, I just use the pipettes, and they work perfect, and I just cleanse them. Okay, I'm gonna put you on pause for a minute. I think I've told you everything. Oh, so then I have, let me pull you down. Hang on. Okay, there you are. So then I have my mortar and I have my pestle. In a lot of cases, I don't have to necessarily grind my herbs. Sometimes I like the herbs nice, big, and whole. I don't like them ground into any kind of a powder. And so I have the bowl. It has been cleansed with the incense that I had over there. I already cleansed my bowl. And then I have my jars. And these jars have been actually washed. So I'm not going to go through, a cleansing with them right here because I don't have my incense. But typically what I would do, and I'm only going to show you two just to show you. Typically what I would do is just put my incense, and cleanse the inside of the jar. But these have all been washed. All right, so I've got my jars, and I like to be completely set up. So usually I have my jars. Today I'm doing 108 bottles, not on video. I usually do 140. It comes in a big case. I buy them by the caseload, these little bottles. I buy them by the case. There's 142 a case. Some of them have already been used because I had ran out of certain ones at the store that were our most popular, and I get some angry customers who need their oils, and so I had to make some, and so I used some of the bottles. So today I've got 108 that I'm going to use. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting, this is Palo Santo chips. So this has already been chipped up. It's not the actual long sticks. This is the chips. And I'm just going to leave them as little chips. Now, of course, when I have really big ones like this size, I'm probably not going to use those. I like to use, the smaller, just the smaller size for the jars. And then, as I told you, I also use a gemstone chip. So since I'm doing protection, I'm going to be using black obsidian. These are black obsidian chips. And you can get those, you can get them online, or, worst case scenario, you can get them at a craft store. Just make sure that it's an actual gemstone and that it's not a glass bead, because, they're notorious for doing that. So you want to make sure that, because we're using the energy of the black obsidian, which is really great for protection. And when I say protection, I'm just talking about all different kinds of protection. Protection of your home, it could be protection of yourself, whatever. All right, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to open my big old jar here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some Palo. All right, and this is what I do with all of my jars. I put the herb in, and I don't have, this is 2 dram. This isn't a giant bottle. I only need a pinch. I think that people get carried away with herbs and thinking that, and just like gemstones, people think that you have to have a stone this big, the size of this, in order for it to do its job. That is not true. That is not true. If you had a stone this size, and if you had a stone, let's just say, I've got Ganesha, Lord Ganesha, working with me today. So, and let's use this because that was brass. Here's Ganesha, quartz quartz Ganesha. I think if Ganesha here was obsidian, this size and this size, I honestly, in my heart of heart, and what I feel, what I can feel from the energy of these two stones, not much. Not much difference. Not much difference. You might feel a slight difference with this, but I don't know if that's because of the weight of the stone, you know, or the size of the stone. But what I do know is if you went from the chip, to say a stone that was this big, that was huge, this big, then yes, there might be a little bit of an energy difference, of course. But guess what? We're working with 2-dram bottles. You don't need to fill this whole thing with herbs because I'm making an oil bottle, not an herb jar. There's a difference. So I'm going to take my little stone. I'm going to put my black obsidian in there. Okay? So I've got the Apollo and the obsidian. And then I'm going to take my pipette. And I'm going to, I've got my oil bottles here. And there are measurements on these pipettes. There's measurements on there that tells you how much you're using. And then I'm going to grab the other one that I haven't used. I'm going to use my other bottle of the other oil that I'm using to blend. Okay. Put the lid on so I don't spill it all over my dining room table. All right, and that's it. That is it. They really make very pretty, if you like the aesthetics, they're very pretty aesthetic oil bottles. And here's the thing, this is what I'm talking about. There is a lot of oil in this, but if you fill this whole thing with a bunch of herbs, then you're not going to get as much oil because the herbs will absorb the oil. So this is an oil bottle for protection. It's ready to go with the exception of when I am done, I'm just going to make the one bottle because it's running late. So when I'm done making all of my oil bottles and I put them in their case, hang on, let me get the case. This is the case. It holds 140 jars and bottles. I'm sorry, 140 bottles. I've already made some time ago to get back in the store, and these I just made today, and these are for love drawing, and they have rose petals and a rose quartz in them. And this one is for, this is the Stress Less. This is the one that has the jasmine, and it also has lavender. So it just makes it really pretty. And the thing is, like, let's talk about this one because this has lavender in it. Well, lavender is extremely potent, right? And I mean, it smells, it's very fragrant. So if I put a ton of lavender, if I stuffed the bottle with lavender, then you're only going to smell the lavender. And the oils that I use for the Stress Less, they're not lavender. So it would, it would smell like lavender, basically. The lavender would overpower. So I just use a tiny little bit of lavender, and I mean like a pinch between my fingers of lavender in there, and that is good for, stress and anxiety, and it helps to calm the nerves and stuff. And I don't know, you can kind of see the little lavender buds in there and the jasmine. They float to the top. Yeah. So That's what I do. It takes me about 6 to 8 hours to do all 140 jars. I have a bad back. I have an old back injury, and I usually cannot stand for more than 4 or 5 hours. So, it's usually a 2-day process. I try to do half and a little like 3/4 and then do the rest the next day. Um, I started out making, and again, this has been over years that I have been working, that I have worked on this and have gotten it down to a very easy routine. Everything is laid out, 1, 2, 3, everything is ready to go before I start so that I'm not running around. I'm not that kind of person. When I'm doing something, I don't want to be, okay, what's next? And then have to run over to the herb cabinet and search through my herbs and find the stones. Everything is written down in this notebook, okay? This little notebook, call it what you want to call it. But here's the interesting thing that I noticed today. This is the back. For whatever reason, I always start with the back of the books. I don't know why that is. But this is, you can see where I've crossed out and I've added and changed things up. I don't, so I've torn things out that I just didn't like. This is probably not the best book to write my stuff in, but it's what I had at the time and that's what I used. So it has taken me years and years and years to get my process down. I have to be very organized. I don't like wasting time when I'm working on, especially when I'm working on things for the store like this or the candles or whatever it is that I'm making. So yeah, that's the oils. That's my process for doing oils anyway. And I have 12 oils right now that I sell at the store. And yeah, so it's fun, but it's a chore. But they're good. And you should try it. Come up with your own recipes, try different oils, try different things. Make sure you have your herb book so that you're checking out the herbs, making sure that none of the herbs that you use are toxic. And unless, like, hey, if you're doing some sort of banishing kind of spell or whatever it is that you're working on where you feel you need a baneful herb, well then, research it and make it so. Label everything. My box is labeled. The oils are in their slots. All of the labels that go on the bottles are at the store. So I keep them in their rows and the box is labeled as such. Plus I know what herbs I use and which stones I use for what oils, but it does make it easier for my worker bees at the store to get everything labeled and priced and all of that. So, all right, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry I can't share the exact recipe with you, but I can just tell you that what I know. Essential oil works better. Cannot wear it on your skin. If you're going to dilute it, I would invest, if you're going to dilute it, I would invest in the jojoba, and or else your stuff is going to smell like oil, like cooking oil. I've smelled other people's oils, and that is what they end up smelling like. So, and maybe you like that, and that's fine too. Okay, guys, that is it. Thanks for watching. Glad you got to hear Cowboy barking in the beginning. He said hello. He just had his 14th birthday last week. He's 14 years old. And so maybe one day I'll get him on here. He hates to have his picture taken, and he hates the camera. All right, guys, that's it. See you next time. Take care. Be nice. And stay safe. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Love you.